It's finally here. That's right, it's finally here, and I'm going to show it to you. Accordance 13. We got a new upgrade, and we got a bunch of reasons for you to hit the buy button when you go over to accordancebible.com and upgrade it. I did it. I'm happy with it, and I think you will be too. I've got my good friends with me. Rick Mansfield is the technology evangelist for Accordance Bible software. He's also a bit of a Jeep enthusiast. And Mark Allison is the content developer and help documentation editor and trainer for Accordance Bible software. He's also a pretty gifted Facebook theology troll. That's kind of an inside joke. But sit back, and we're going to show you over the next hour the best reasons to upgrade to Accordance 13. All right, one of the cool new reasons to upgrade to Accordance 13 is the new look and feel. And Mark, you're going to show off the pretty new look. What is going on here? What's new? What looks better?
Okay, as you can see right now, it looks a little different than you would have been familiar with in Accordance version 12. The library looks a little different. If I open up a tool in Accordance, let's open up a commentary here and open up the table of contents here, you'll see the table of contents looks a little different. There are colors, different matching colors that designate different things depending on their intensity. And you can change all those in your preferences. So if you're on a Mac, you would go up to Accordance on the menu bar. If you're on a PC, you'd go to Edit on the menu bar to get down to your preferences. And in your preferences here, if you go to Appearance, you'll see some general themes here. Canyon is what I have right now. And it's kind of neat. If I choose one here and click Preview, it'll give me a preview of what it looks like. I don't have to even get out of my preferences to see those. Classic for those that like the more traditional look and feel. We've got some that are a little bit more bold. I like Spanish moss a lot. Tuscany is really pretty. And again, once you select these, and let me click out of the library here, and let's bring up a Bible, and I want to show you the info pane, because the info pane has a lot of the coloring, the theme coloring that goes along with it too. So so there you go. So it's kind of neat. It definitely lets you know that that the info pane is a separate pane from the text or the tool that you happen to be in. And the whole look and feel is a little bit flatter. The icons here, I think, pop a little more, and I like it a lot. Now, we also have a dark mode. And I know some people, you either love dark mode or you hate dark mode. And I use it all the time. Now, I tell you what, I was determined to give it enough time, because the first time I tried dark mode, I did it for like a day, and I decided I didn't like it at all. And then I thought, you know what, a day's not really enough. I'm going to give it at least a week, and I did, and it really grew on me. So if you haven't tried dark mode and on your computer, you may want to try that. And notice that here it says automatically adjust to system dark mode. So if I check that, then if I have dark mode turned on my computer, it'll automatically set to that. Now, I do have dark mode. I've shifted into dark mode now, and you can see it follows the dark mode theme of your computer. Right now, you have to, Accordance restarts every time it enters or exits dark mode. I've heard from the developers that that's not going to be the case for long. They didn't tell me how long, but that is something they're working on. You won't have to restart Accordance in the future, in hopefully the near future, to be able to enter dark mode. But I like it a lot, because as you see, for example, in the info pane, it's not the same black as the text pane, and the letters. The text here isn't, it's not completely white, it's a little bit dimmer, so it's just a nice look and feel. And so even in the instant details down here, you see that that it's even a slightly darker color than what you get in your text box. And the search entry box, when you click on it, it highlights it so that you know where you are. But when you're not in it, it's not too in your face. So I really like what they've done with that.
And now this is only on the Mac right now, right?
That is. Windows dark mode is coming, but right now it's only on the Mac.
Is there anywhere in Accordance where it does not show it as dark mode?
No. Right now, yeah, everything that I've tried, text
Or
and
maybe.
tools. Oh, okay.
Because we respect your customization. So if you've
That's
created, you know, custom font, background, things like that, we're not going to turn that dark. You'll still have to do that. But if you have everything set for default, it should go dark.
Yeah, that's good, Rick. Thanks. So yes, if I go to my preferences here, and in my preferences under text display, instead of having a default theme, I had something like honey, and I decided that I wanted a rose background there, and I click OK, then that's what you're going to get. Accordance isn't going to override specific changes you've made to that. But as long as you have any of the default themes, it'll automatically convert those default themes to a dark mode theme.
All right, one of the things that I hate about most programs that are powerful is they're also complex, and the preferences inside Accordance are pretty powerful, but that also means they're hard to find things. And in 13, you've really changed something that makes this easy to get at. What are you talking about? What are you doing here?
Okay, so we now have search within preferences, and to get to your preferences in Accordance, if you're in macOS, you go to the Accordance menu, but if you're in Windows, you would go to the Edit menu, and it would be down there at the bottom. So I'm going to open up preferences, and one of the things added with Accordance 13 is this search window right here. And so, for instance, a good example of this is I'm going to just type in EX. When you start talking about exporting content out of Accordance, we have all kinds of settings here for exporting. So if you're looking at, well, I really want to, I want to, talk about my, my Greek export, how I'm certain, how I'm exporting that out. It'll take you right there. Let's go back to that again. I'll just type EX right there. But you notice what it does, it just fills in here with everything. And so if I'm talking about Unicode export, it takes me right up here, and I can determine what's being done there. And so basically every element within all of these preferences are covered. And it's handy because I'll tell you, and Mark might agree, there are times where I would not remember where certain things were, just because there's just so many options here in the preferences that it just gets confusing after a while. But the search really helps a lot.
So yeah, one of the things I love about the tutorials is the fact that when you're done with it, you haven't just learned what to do, but it's actually accomplished the task for you.
Why don't you show us one of the easy tutorials to begin with?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to Help up on the menu bar and Tutorials under Easy here, let's look at using daily devotionals. If I click on that, notice that it gives me the title of it. It gives me, some information about what this is all about. I can click on Begin, and it tells me how many steps are involved in this, so I can decide, how much of a level of commitment am I willing to make right now. I don't think I'm pretty sure most of our tutorials are less than 30 steps. We tried to keep that as a maximum. We may have gone over on some of them, but basically we're trying to keep them to 30 or less. And so it says first open the preferences. Now, if I know how to open the preferences, I can just do that. I can go to Accordance on the menu bar if I'm on a Mac, or Edit if I'm on a PC, and go down to Preferences. Or I can just click Do It For Me, and it'll do it for me, as you would expect. Now, again, select the reading research settings. And so the reading research settings are right here. I can do it myself, and if I do, it just goes to the next step. The default devotional pop-up lets you choose. It says select devotional readings, and I can go ahead and let it do it for me too, and then click OK to dismiss it. I'll just go ahead and do that manually. And now what you see is to open to today's entry, it shows you how to go to default devotional from the daily reading submenu of the menu. window menu, and I can click on do it for me. Now, one of the cool things about the tutorials is that it always will open up, it'll create and open up a new workspace. So if you're doing something already, it never messes with what you're already doing. So at the end of this, a new workspace will have been created. You can delete that workspace when you're done with the tutorial if you want to, and go back to what you were working on. And so it does say that a new workspace will open. And so we see here that we're at our devotional readings. We're here at November 8th, which is today. Today might not be today when you're looking at this video, but this was the day where we created this. And also you can access today's entry from your default devotional by clicking the icon up on the toolbar, which is kind of cool. So we'll click continue. You can access other devotionals as it says, and you can just get the idea as you click through this. Finally, the last step, 10 of 10, and you click finish. You're done, and now you can exit. And again, it keeps the workspace open that it created for you in case you want to keep working with it. But if you don't, you can just close it and again be back to whatever it was that you were working on before. Okay.
All right. Can you access that from anywhere other than the menu, the help menu?
No, that's a good question, but tutorials, yeah, the only way no, yes, you can, sorry. I need to re-access my help documentation knowledge. I think we have a new icon for the toolbar, don't we? So we'll go back and make this sound. Yes, okay, there we go.
It's on your toolbar right there.
Oh, okay, right. And it's on there by default. So yes, we have a new icon on your toolbar, and it's there by default when you installed Accordance 13.
So Mark,
yes.
Is there anywhere else that you can access those tutorials from besides the help menu?
Absolutely. In Accordance 13, we have a new icon. It's called Tutorials, and it's installed there by default for you. And if I click on that button, they're all listed there. So again, you can click on that button, or you can go to the Help menu and go down to Tutorials. And as the case with most things in Accordance, there's always more than one way to do something.
One of the things I think can be powerful about Bible software is the ability to add your own content. And there's a couple of ways to do that in Accordance, but they've just added the ability to add PDFs. And how do you do that in Accordance 13, Rick?
I'll show you. Like Mark talked about in a different segment, there's always more than one way to do things. But what I always do is I always go to this user tool, menu up here on my toolbar, and I want to select import right here. Now, if I just wanted to start with a blank user tool, I could just say new user tool, but I'm going to say import. Now, we have always had these three choices here. HTML, if you wanted to import an HTML file, plain text, and then TLG. This is from the old CDs that were around really back in the 90s that had a lot of Greek text, like from Plato and extra biblical Greek text. And so it will import those files if you have that CD, and that's been in there a long time. And I don't know that they've ever thought about taking it out. In fact, I've got all of those files. I still use it now and then. But the big one, the new one that we've added is importing PDFs. And so, and I should probably say a word or two. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK to import from a PDF. Of course, you get a warning here, and I'll say OK to that. I'm not going to pull anything in here that I think is copyrighted. But I should say a word here about importing PDFs. This is very tricky because there are numerous different kinds of PDFs, and that's one thing that our developers discovered when they started examining different PDFs that they're basically formatted in so many different ways. And so you have to, if software is going to determine, okay, what is a paragraph? Most of those PDFs, if you've ever selected text from one and pasted it somewhere, would put a line break at the end of every line. And so we've had to try to bypass that towards, okay, this is supposed to be a connected paragraph that would wrap. Now, if it's a PDF that is just a plain image scan, like you see the page and you can't select the text if you have it in a PDF reader, then Accordance can't do anything with that because we aren't creating our own optical character reader. But if someone has already put that to an optical character reader, or if it's, say, a PDF from a Word document or something like that, then Accordance should be able to recognize it. So I've got this document that I got off the internet. This is from the Philokalia, which is an Orthodox document, Eastern Orthodox, and I'm going to hit open. It'll ask me for my tool name, what I want to call this user tool. I'll just leave it at that, and I'll hit OK. Now, before I start doing this, one thing that's interesting about this, because I was playing around with this import tool a little bit, what I'm about to import is a 1,200 page document. It's a 1,200 page PDF. And when I first tried it with this, I thought, okay, that's going to choke it. But actually it doesn't. So you see it coming in here, and it's basically taking all of that text. And it's, your average PDF that might be an article or something like that would just be instantaneous. It would just be right there, but it's going to pull it in. Now, I'll say about the import here too, it only pulls in words. Some PDF files will have graphics and images. We might add that kind of support later. And of course, you certainly can add images, graphics to user tools. But right now, all that it will pull in is the text itself. All right, so that is going to pull up, and then what you have here is you have a PDF, and it is actually very, very clean. And so here's the text. Is where it was brought in from, and it kept formatting like italics right here, because here it's talking about a work called On Prayer. It doesn't mean that it is perfect. Basically, it worked with the text that it had. So, and I've done this one before, so I'm going to show you. For instance, first of all, you see these verses that are highlighted, that are hyperlinked. It automatically looked for scripture references, and it hyperlinked those texts to that. And so I can click on that, and it will open up into that passage in a separate zone. I'm going to make this a little bit larger too, so so that people can see it. But let me come down in here to an instance where I know, like for instance, there's something that needs to be cleaned up. I'll come down here. I know it's pretty close to the top. Okay, here we are. There are, I want to actually see if it did this correctly. Here's Job 31. Now that is it does show correctly there. And now that's impressive that it even took the comma 4. And so this shows the 4th verse. Now, probably one thing that does need to be corrected here is that this is showing this is the Septuagint versification. So that's probably actually off and needs to be edited there. But you can do that easy enough. And this is one that it misses. At least I thought that I could find it here real quickly. Just edit out the slow part. Here we go. In this section right here, there was an extra space in the original document. So when Accordance pulled this in, Matthew 24:28, all that Accordance sees right here is Matthew 24:8. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go in and edit my user tool, which is easy enough. So I can, what I've done is there's no way for me to really blow this up for you to see it better, but basically I've removed that space, and I'll hit this button to hopefully it will automatically, I don't know if it's going to, I think probably I have to unlink that first, don't I, Mark?
I think so. Usually you do.
Yeah, so that's easy enough, and that will let me show you that dialog. So I'm going to unlink this first. I'll go in here to these link settings, and I'm going to say remove link. All right. Whoops, and then I lost my spot. Where did that go? Well, I tell you what. Let me. What I'll do is now I'm going to just hit this magical link thing, and let's hit update, and let's see if it. And of course, again, this is a 1,200 page document, so that takes a little bit longer than it normally would. And let me close this window. And so now, look, here it is, Matthew 24:8, and it's showing me just Matthew 24:8 right there. So there's some things you still might want to clean up. For instance, in this PDF, I really would like to go through and work through this PDF, but it's going to be January before I have time. There were, in the original PDF, there were page headings at the top of every page, as well as page numbers. I'm probably going to keep the page numbers, but pull this paragraph together with that just in the middle of it. But I would probably want to take out these page headings that were in there. So I can do that. and I'll hit update here, and it'll have taken that one out. And you kind of have to do that with user tools anyway. You always have to kind of go in and clean them up. But what a great uh, head start that I've got on this, a 1,200 page document, because this is, to me, this is already usable as is. If I needed to start using the Philokalia in accordance right now, I've got all the text. I can do searches for it, and it looks like it even picked up some Greek here. So that's interesting too. So it automatically recognized Greek and scripture references, English content, and then these title sections. And you see these title sections, like if, let me click here, and I always hit the space bar to go into edit mode, but you see all these title sections here. So I might even want to make some of these subcategories and so forth. But I mean, it's all ready to go, and it's usable from this point going forward. And then I can edit it until I get it perfect.
All right, so our next reason to upgrade is a really cool new search command. It's called the text search command. So Mark, why don't you show that off to us?
Yeah, thanks. So if you go to your search menu item and you go down to enter command, you'll see all the commands that you're familiar with in Accordance. The AND command, for example, where you can search for Adam and Eve. And let's just do something simple like that. So if I type in Adam, I can go to search, enter command, and keyboard shortcut there, by the way, Eve, and I've looked for Adam and Eve. I can also type in Adam and type in the letter A, and any command that starts with the letter A, and there's only one, will appear up there at the top, and I can type in Eve that way. So there's a lot of ways to get to our commands. And again, these are commands we've had since version 1 in Accordance. Things that deal with word order, how many intervening words, and then below the gray line, these are commands that kind of, we call them linking commands. They link a couple different ideas together. So here's the text command, and that's the new one that we're talking about. And I love it. It's really powerful, but because it's sort of tucked in there with all the other ones, you may not even notice it unless you're watching this video. And so here you go. So the text command essentially allows you to search different texts while you're still inside the text you're in. All right, so let me give you an example. For example, if I look for the word Jesus, okay, there we go, simple enough, I found Jesus. But what if I want to find Jesus when he's the subject of a phrase, right? Well, the ESV is tagged with like Strong's information. Let me bring up my instant details, but it's not grammatically tagged, and it doesn't have any syntactical information. So I don't know when Jesus is the subject of something when I'm in the ESV. But wouldn't it be handy to know when Jesus is the subject? And well, we can using the text command. So if I go to search and I go to enter command and type in text, all right. Now, what it's going to ask me is, what text do you want to, what other text? You're in the ESV already, but what other text do you want to look at? Well, since we're looking at Jesus, I'm going to go to the NA28, the Greek New Testament. And notice, because I'm in a tagged text here, the Greek New Testament, I can either enter a command, obviously, you know, we've seen these, the list here, or because it's grammatically tagged, I can enter a tag. And so if I click on tag here, and now you need to have the syntactical database added to add subject here. I highly recommend it. I would say this, I know virtually nothing about syntax, and yet I use this all the time just for this kind of simple thing where you're saying, look for something, you know, look for times where Jesus is a subject, or look for times where love is in the predicate, right? So we're going to look for the subject, you know, and just leave it at that. And so I'm looking for Jesus. Now it puts the @ sign in there automatically. And let me just talk about the @ sign just for a second, because the @ sign is really important in Accordance. And it normally gets stuck in there automatically, but you can actually add it to your searches in kind of cool ways. So the @ sign just means I'm looking for one word, but there are two ideas about this one word that are interesting to me. One idea is that it's Jesus in English. The other idea is that it's the subject of a clause in the Greek New Testament. It's kind of like if I went to my drawer in my bedroom and I was looking for a sock, and I pull out a sock and I'm like, yes, I found a sock. I'm so excited. But then I realized, you know what? I really want a blue sock, and the sock I had was brown. Well, I'm not looking for something blue and a sock. I'm looking for just one thing. It's a sock, but there are two ideas about this one thing that are really important to me. One is that it's a sock, and the other is that it's blue. And that's what the @ sign does. It connects these two ideas in a one-word search. So when I hit enter, now I'm finding not just the word Jesus, but the word Jesus when it's the subject of a clause.
You know, Accordance 13, along with all the other versions of Accordance, have pretty powerful searching capabilities. And one of the new ways to kind of work this out is something you call AMPLIFY to constructs. What does that mean, Rick, and how do you do it?
All right, so our constructs, we have basically a graphical way to search, and we've had constructs in Accordance since version 1. That was just something that was just this incredible power tool. And probably, I bet you most Accordance users never even used this. And I think for some, they're a little bit intimidating, but the constructs allow you to search for things that you can't search for as easily in the command line. And so our new auto construct feature basically gives you a head start on building a construct, and they work both with English text and original language text. So, for instance, I'll start one here with an English text. I can take this phrase "God of peace," which God of peace is only found in Paul's letters and in Hebrews. So, so I'm going to I'll pull up a contextual menu. You can also go to the Amplify menu and choose construct right here. I like to do, if I can do something from the contextual menu, I like to do that like with a right click. So here, and because I've got the whole phrase selected, I can come here to construct, and there are 4 options, but there's word, phrase, clause, and sentence. But because I don't have the morphological information, I don't have syntactical information on this English text. I just basically have I have the underlying Strong's numbers for the Greek and Hebrew. All I can do is search for words in this case. I'll show you a phrase search in just a moment, but I'm going to search for word, and this created my construct just automatically. And so notice what it took, the phrase that I had selected, and so okay, we have God of peace, 3 words, God of peace. God has this key number, G2316. So this is nice for me to do this. You know, I'm basically searching for 3 words here, and you could even think of that as a phrase, but it's not the same as the other phrase search that I'll show you in a moment. But I don't have to go look up those key numbers, you know, because they're right here for me. It's got this word right here as well. And the way constructs work in general is I can come down here and I can hit the search button at the bottom right, and it found it. I didn't even see it find them. By the time I looked from the search button over here to the left, here they were. So it found these phrases. There's also a nice little button, search for both directions, because and that's probably the search both directions is probably more important in original languages than English, because in original languages, they don't always follow the kind of word order that we would expect in English. But anyway, I'm going to hit search both ways. And so we got one more here. We've got peace of God in Philippians 4:7. But basically, this is a very Pauline phrase, Pauline in Hebrews, unless you want to see Hebrews as written by Paul, which that would be a good case for that. So that's one in English. Now let me add a Hebrew text, and so I'll pull in that same Hebrew text that Mark was using earlier. So here's our Hebrew text, and we're at Genesis 1:1. And so I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to do this with bara Elohim. That's God created, basically. So I'll go here to my contextual menu, and I'm going to choose construct. And now you see that I've got access to all four of these options. I can search for those words. I can search for a phrase. I can search for a clause or a sentence. Now I know that I'm not looking at a clause or a sentence, so I'm going to just select phrase right here, and it creates my construct. I wish I could enlarge this a little bit for the screen here, but it has every element of what's underlying in here, because these are morphologically and syntactically tagged text here. So I've got the morphology, I've got the inflection, I've got the lexical form, I've got, okay, here's noun, common, masculine, plural, absolute. But I've even got subject and predicate from the syntax. And of course, these constructs have always been made to where you can just grab these items and you can pull them out here. Well, this has saved me the time because I could create that myself, but Accordance has basically created this. This is called AMPLIFY the construct. And sometimes we call them auto constructs because it has just built this from the information here. So I can hit search on that and it should find 2 verses because I've done this one before, but it's searching for this very detailed construct from that selection that I did, and I found 2 examples of this. I can say search both directions. I think from when I did this before, it doesn't find anything different searching for both directions, but I could check that out anyway. And then what I do if I was seriously researching this information, what I probably want to do is go in here and maybe take out some things. Maybe I'd want to take out, subject and predicate or something like that. Maybe I just want to leave the particular inflected forms or just the lexical forms or something like that, again, within so many words. But this shortcuts putting together that very complicated, or what can be sometimes, this one's not very complicated, but sometimes they can get very complicated. So it shortcuts putting all that together by giving me a head start with it. Mark, would you want to add anything to our Amplify the Construct feature?
I muted myself.
Oh.
I would just say that there's a really cool thing you can add to this. You can actually open up a research tab and then perform this search in a research tab. So if you go to File, up on the menu bar, New tab, and then go all the way down to the bottom to Research, and then just copy and paste from the link Hebrew construct command there, just delete it out of there, and then paste it into the research tab, and then change the research tab to Hebrew, and then you can do all text or whatever instead of just all, and then hit enter, and it's just a cool way.
I haven't done this yet. Let's see what that does. So what is this doing here? Is it just searching every one of my Hebrew text?
It is. And this could be non-biblical text, as well as your biblical text. It may take a while. So anything that, so it's only finding there. So maybe we should just delete that whole thing out of there. But
that's all right. But I see the idea. And according, again, this is very specific, but if you wanted to take some of these elements out,
it's probably all the syntactical stuff that's messing it up. So
right. So yeah, I could see how that would be really valuable. I didn't even know you could do it in research, Mark.
I didn't either until like a couple of weeks ago. I don't even know where I saw someone do it, but
okay.
Yeah,
that's neat.
All right, I'm assuming that this also works when you're in the Greek New Testament or even the Septuagint.
It does.
It'll work in any text at all, even if it's not. It could be the Living Bible or the Message. Of course, it's only going to grab the words, so you're not going to get a lot more than you would from just typing in a phrase. But yeah, it will.
Yeah, so here's
the Living Bible.
Finding the English.
Let's see. I'm gonna say heavens and earth here. Give it something that it can find. So we can do a search for words. And so we've got heavens and the earth. I don't know if it's going to find it. Yeah, look at that. So it found a number of these.
All right, go back.
That would not be a difficult search to put up here, but still, it's.
Rick, step back.
Okay, step back.
I want to redo it because I want to introduce that because make it easier to edit. Okay. So. All right, so this isn't just using for original language study. You can do this with searching stuff in English, right? Right.
Just like I did there with the in the CSB, and then but I could let's see. I'm going to close this right here. I'm going to close that CSB, and here in the Living Bible, I'm going to just choose heavens and the earth, and so there's no keyword number tagging on this text. This is just English text, and I can come here to construct, and I can choose word. And now when I search for that, here it is in the Living Bible, all these phrases, heavens and the earth, even down in Habakkuk.
So that might be useful if you're doing like a Bible study on a topical issue, something like that. You can
Yeah,
find
I
all
think
the.
I think you could have gotten this. I think you could have gotten this same phrase just by typing in heavens and the earth up here. I think you've gotten these same
Okay.
results.
All right.
But this where this would prove more valuable is with that key number text, like the CSB or the ESV, something like that, where it's searching for those specific underlying Hebrew or Greek words.
Okay. I'll probably cut out all that because you're right. That's
Okay.
not that beneficial in English now that you think about it. Now that I think about it.
By the way, if you went to one of the things that I would be interested in, that first search you did in the CSB,
Yeah.
if you deleted any of the English words and just put left the key number and see if you got any different
You do. Yeah,
searches.
you do. In fact, the video that I've created that I haven't posted yet, showing the feature off, I actually do that. So let me go back here and let's see. I was at Romans 15:33. Whoops. We had a Revelation. Try it again. Romans 15:33. Hey, bug.
Oh, I think it does that for some reason when you've linked to something and it can't find it because you've already linked to something.
Okay,
yeah, now it'll work. Go do something.
There we go. Okay, so yeah, if we were to do this God of peace, and I'm going to choose construct and word, and then if I take out this middle word, okay, and I'm going to move these guys over here so it's a little bit nicer and neater. So I'm gonna hit. So what we're looking for these two underlying Greek words, and I'm gonna say search both directions. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do it first, just straightforward. So here's our 15:33 God of peace, and basically just God of peace. Let's do it both directions, and we'll have some more variety than you do if you leave that word of in there. Because here, for instance, we have peace from God, which wouldn't have been found in the earlier search that I did. So peace from God. Here's another peace from God, and there's another one as well. So you get some of those results as well, because I didn't have that untagged, English word of that's put there for translation purposes.
All right. So how do I add that syntactical? Do you call it the syntactical database? Is that what it was?
Yes. Yeah, if you don't have it in Accordance already, you can go to accordancebible.com. That's our website. And just search for syntax. That's probably the easiest way to do it. We have syntax for Greek and for Hebrew. And here the grammatical syntax add-on for the Hebrew text, and then here's the one for the Greek text. And they're really powerful in what they can do. I mean, I just showed you a very simple example, but syntactical databases work even when you're in the text itself in a really powerful way. So if I'm in the New Testament here, and I go over here to add parallel, if I have syntax installed, I can go to syntax here, syntax of the Greek Bible. It gives me this cool chart, and I can hover over any of these areas and find out. So example, notice that down here, who knows what in means, right? But if I look in the instant details, it says in is the independent clause here. So I can hover over it and I can see that independent clause. And I can even search for these syntactical items in graphical constructs, so forth, that Rick will be looking at in just a minute.
Well, and Kevin had asked, how to get that. It may turn out that some people have syntax and they don't know they have it. So you showed one way to find out. We can go to add parallel and just see if you have the section called syntax. The other way is there's a whole section in the library that that it will show up if you have it in your library.
Absolutely. Here at the top, underneath your text, it'll say syntax and diagram. And if you have the diagrams or the syntactical databases, they'll be listed here.
Now, here's one of the features that I saw when I attended an online training that, I don't know, sort of helped me out because, first of all, I'm better at Greek than I am at Hebrew. And I think this would help a lot of people. It's a way of highlighting if you have multiple different Bibles open, if you have an English Bible, a Hebrew Bible, and the Septuagint, the Greek Septuagint, you can kind of make those things all work together, even if you don't really know Hebrew right that well. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things I love about Accordance is that we're always trying to make the things you already own a little bit more accessible. So a lot of you already own the MTLXX database, we call it, and it actually comes in a couple different versions. And if you have either one, this feature will work. The MTLXX database was designed to let you see the Hebrew text and see the corresponding Greek words in the Septuagint. But now, instead of having to open up one of these modules, you can just open up your Hebrew Bible and your Greek Bible, and it'll highlight everything in between. So here's how you do it. If you're, the way I usually do it is open up my Hebrew Bible first, and I'm opening up the Hebrew Bible, Biblia Hebraica. Now, we actually have a couple different, we have more than one Hebrew Bible. Just make sure that it's a tagged version, grammatically tagged. So the way you know is if you hover over a word and you get the information in the instant details palette like that, you'll know it's grammatically tagged. But we also have one called the BHS, the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia. And those are our two primary texts. And let me just mention the difference between the two, because you're probably wondering, why do you have two? What's the difference between them? The texts themselves are almost identical. The grammatical tagging is almost identical. The difference is that the Hebrew Bible, Biblia Hebraica, by the way, if I click on this little information button here, it'll also give me the abbreviation. Back in the day, a little history lesson here, if you were an old user of Accordance like I am, this used to be the only way you knew what this text was in Accordance. We didn't have the full name. You had to just memorize these abbreviations. So the HMTW4, this works with the syntactical database. All right, and this is our primary text that we use in Accordance. Now, the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, the cool thing, the BHST, the cool thing about this is that it works with the apparatus. All right, so it's got the sigla in the text for the apparatus. And the sigla are those little superscripts, we call them sigla because sometimes they're superscripted letters, but sometimes they're these arcane sort of symbols, and they correspond with the apparatus. And the reason that we have two of these and not just one connected is that the syntactical database and the sigla don't work well together. They don't get along. They don't play well together. So, so we have two of those for two different purposes. But this HMTW4 is our major text. But it doesn't matter which one you use; they'll both work. So if I open up the HMT, if I go to Add Parallel here, click on my Add Parallel button, I'm going to add a Septuagint module. Now, it can be any Septuagint text as long as it's Greek, right? You don't want to use like an English translation. That won't work. So it could be, Ralph's is a good one. So let's pick Ralph's here. All right, and notice right away what it does. Now, in Accordance 12 and earlier, this would not have happened. When I hovered over a word, I would not get a highlighted corresponding word in the Septuagint. I would have had to open the MTLX database and do all kinds of searches to it. But even cooler is I can add an English translation too, and now as I'm hovering over it, the English translation highlights as well, and vice versa. So if I see hand here in Genesis 32:12, I can hover over that and see it in both those translations. Now you may ask, how do I know if I have the MTLXX database? Well, and that's a good question because now you can search your library for it. If you go to MT, I think it's, just do MT, there's LXX, and we have a couple different modules. And again, either of these work. So if you have the one down here with this weird looking little symbol, and if you've got this one here with the picture, either one of those will work. Now, probably the main way to check it out is just to do like I did. Open up your Hebrew text, open up your Septuagint, and if they highlight between each other, then you have one of those. You don't need to set anything up or go to your preferences or anything like that. It's just going to do it automatically. If you go to Genesis 1, you might be a little familiar with it. So one of the neat things is just hovering over any of the letters are going to show you those any of those words are going to show you the corresponding letters. So if you want to see bara here, it means to create, I can find out a little bit more about how bara works in the in Hebrew by triple clicking on bara, and that'll take me to whatever my default lexicon happens to be, and that'll give me more ideas about the word bara. But I can also see that, well, you know, here epoiesin is from the word, you know, it's the inflected form of the word poieo, and you know, so I can triple click on that and find out what that means in my default Greek lexicon. And here's the thing with languages, right? And you guys probably all know this. You know, the semantic range of any two words, even if they're considered the same word, are going to be different. The two circles never completely overlap, right? There are always some variation between those two words. And so sometimes you can look at how the Septuagint translators dealt with a Hebrew word, and maybe some of the decisions that went into deciding what Greek word are we going to use to translate this particular Hebrew word, and why, and what are some of the slight variations in meaning between those two words.
I would add to that, Mark, that, you know, I started doing this probably a decade ago. Anytime I was teaching or preaching from an Old Testament passage, I didn't just look at the Hebrew, I started looking at the Septuagint, because the Septuagint is what the New Testament writers were looking at. And so I found it was very important. And of course, most of the quotations in the New Testament are not coming from the Hebrew, they're coming from the Greek.
All right, one of the cool new features that I find myself really interested in Accordance 13 is your new highlighting system. So Mark, why don't you show that off?
Yeah, absolutely. The highlights are really cool. And to be totally honest, I don't usually use highlights that much. I mean, I don't know why. I just never have. But these new highlighting features in Accordance might change my mind, because they are really cool. Now, one of the things you can do now when you select something in Accordance, in a text or a tool, here, let me select a phrase, void and darkness. All right, you notice a couple little symbols pop up here when I highlighted something. And these are neat because this is actually an iOS, like a mobile device feature coming to the desktop. And usually it's the other way around, right? But this is kind of neat because we've had these in our mobile devices for a while. Now, this first little symbol here is just a highlight style that I've previously used. All right, and this palette here, if I click on it, it brings up my highlight palettes and I can select something else. All right, so now that I've used the yellow, if I highlight something different, now you'll see I have yellow there as a previously used highlight. So it's just a quick and easy way to access some of those highlights. All right, so that's one way, but that's like just your basic highlighting. Check this out. If I go to highlight, if I click on the highlight button on my toolbar, or if I go to window up on the menu bar and go down to highlights, I have an option here for live highlight. All right. By the way, clicking on the button will give me the same thing. Will give me my live highlights. Why are these called live highlights? Well, first of all, we have our regular highlighter. These are what we've always had, right? You can create your own highlight styles. And by the way, to do that, you come over to the little action menu here, and you can go down to define highlight styles. And I'm pointing this out because this is a new feature we have. You can create a shortcut for your highlights. So you don't even have to click on anything anymore. You can just highlight something and hit a short button key, and it'll pop it up there. So that's kind of cool. So let me just cancel out of there. So we have our symbols that we've always had, and then the highlights that you've created. But check it out. Now we also, once I have the highlighter, this is something new. If I click a highlight style here, now my pen turns into a highlighter, and I can just start dragging anywhere. I can just drag all over the place and highlight because my pen is in the pen mode and it's highlighting. By the way,
because you used to, you had to do a separate command.
You did.
To do that.
And now I can.
One.
Right. And so it's so much easier now to just keep highlighting as you're going. I can uncheck enabled, by the way, and now my cursor is a regular cursor again. So you can keep this highlight palette open and access your highlights, and then, and then click on enabled here and go back to a different highlight style and keep highlighting away. All right. So that's really cool. So now we also have our pen, and the pen is awesome. So, okay, check out what you can do. So I can select the color for my pen. Let me select red. I can select the pen width. That's what the slider does. And by the way, there's a preview window here to let you see about how thick it is. All right. And now with my pen, I can do cool stuff. Like I can circle things. And look what happens when I let go. It creates an oval, because I didn't create really a circle. I created an oval. But if I create a circle or something close to a circle, it'll actually create a circle for me. I can create lines. So lines here. And I can create arrows if I create something that looks kind of like an arrow. Let me do one here that, let's see. Yeah, I can make curves too. Let's see. And then let's do this arrow there. So not only that, I can make boxes around things. Let me change the color here to something else just for fun. All right, so I can, and I'm not a good drawer. It doesn't have to even be very close, but it'll create a box around something if what I'm creating even suggests it might be a box, right? And then I can create arcs between the two, and it'll do that. Now, this is cool too. Check it out. If I increase or decrease the size of my text, those drawings stay with it. All right, I can even add a parallel pane here. All right, and it scrunches it all together, but it's all the circles are still circling the right words. The arrows are still pointing to the right places. All right, now another feature I have is an eraser. If I click on the eraser tool, now I can just start erasing all this stuff. Before you had to like highlight it, right click on it, go to clear, highlight. That's not too bad, but now I can just erase away and get rid of all that. I can erase these drawings if I want to. By the way, often if you click on the end of a line, sometimes, sometimes it's a little hard to erase some of these drawings, but if you click on the end of the line of a drawing, that makes a difference. And that was probably, let's see if I can go to a circle. Yeah, there it goes. And yeah, that one is a glitchy. Sometimes this still is very version 1 of our highlighting, but it's already so cool. I love it. And I haven't even showed you the cool thing yet. If I go back to pen, I can now go to whiteboard drawing. Now a whiteboard lets you do anything you want. I can write words, love this, or whatever I want to do. I can make smiley faces. Obviously this is not what you would actually use it for. But my point is you can do anything you want. And the whiteboard does not get saved to your file. So I can clear my whiteboard anytime. It doesn't matter. This isn't going to be saved anywhere. But the point is I can write between any two things. Let me do this. Let me enable this.
Hey, Mark, you can also write beyond your text window there. Yeah, so like you could connect things from your text there to your lexicon.
Yep, absolutely. So with my whiteboard here, I can, let me go back to enabled here, and let me clear it out. But yes, I can highlight something here, and I can point across these two zones to a completely different zone to interact between the two. It's an amazing teaching tool, really. Just imagine if I had this projected, and as a teacher, I was able to work with this, and then I can just clear it when I'm done. So really, those are the features. A highlighter that we've had for a while, but now it just allows you to easily highlight things without having to go back and select things. The pen tool that lets you create boxes and circles, and the pen option. Now I've still got it on whiteboard, but the pen option is saved to your text, and then the whiteboard option that's not saved to your text, but it will allow me to draw anywhere.
Now, one thing that I love about the whiteboard, especially if you're teaching, you can have accordance pulled up and make it nice and big so everybody can see it real easily. But if you are working with it, you can use it teaching, outlining, underlining, all that kind of stuff. But one of the things I've decided that I'm going to do if I'm using this and I use my whiteboard and I really like what I've done, I'm just going to take a screenshot, save that, and put that into a note file. You can put you're in a note file. And so then if you add a note to say Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, and you marked up Genesis 1:1, and you can put that in there. And that way you've always got it. You know, the program's going to erase it when you turn off the whiteboard, but that way you've got the screenshot, so you can actually keep it for future. Now you won't be able to really edit that unless you edit the image file, but
yeah,
that's a really good tip.
Yeah, that is. And it's really taken highlighting to a whole new level. Like I said, I didn't really use highlighting that much, but I think these new features are going to change the way I work with Accordance.
I hope you got a lot out of that, and I really want to thank my good friends Rick and Mark from Accordance for helping me out, showing you the new features in Accordance Bible software. There's more to it than that, but that's really the major stuff that everybody's excited about. So if you're really interested in this, you know, put your comments down below. Which one was your favorite feature? And then also make sure you go over to Accordance Bible and check it out yourself. Hey, thank you so much for watching this. If you're still here after that hour, I really appreciate it. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button if you liked this. Share it with somebody. Hit the old notification bell so that you'll get notified next time I upload a video. And so thanks, and see you at the next one. Oh, and enjoy this. We had some fun in between the takes.
Trying to get my dog. Oh, eat it.
Is your new highlighting system. So, did you guys hear that?
Yes, we heard it.
Yeah.
Maybe
we're looking at the wrong screen.
Uploaded 132,732 items.
Here's the
How about
code
this one?
for
downloading everything in Accordance for free.
Yeah.
Your cat's back there.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I wouldn't say author of the help documentation.
Editor.
No, editor's better, because most of it was already created by the time I started working with it. So that way I can blame other people whenever they find it.
Have you gotten my my correction that I sent in the other day where I put awkward in brackets?
No, I didn't.
It was about Abraham's bosom, and the phrase was supposed to be your bosom, but it was you bosom.
Oh,
So I selected you bosom, sent that as selected to send that as a correction, and then I put at the bottom should be your bosom, and then I put in brackets awkward.
That's hilarious.